Bright suns, and welcome back to a new episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars with Maggie Levitt. Today I am coming to you from Hoth as there was a blizzard last night. As promised, today I'm going to be talking about The Light of the Jedi. So if you have not read this book yet, stop now, put this video in a playlist, and come back to it after you've read it. I really do not want to spoil anything about the High Republic for anyone. But before we jump into the book, I did want to cover a couple pieces of news from this week. We are just 3 days away from having Farzala in our lives in the first issue of Daniel Older Jose's Star Wars High Republic Adventures. I already picked up my copy thanks to IDW, and I absolutely love the entire comic, and I am so excited for this issue and so excited for this entire run. So I will be talking about that next week. I also received my advanced copy of Alphabet Squadron, but we are way out from its release, so I will not be talking about it until the end of February, but I am just so excited to jump into that book. I have been dying to see what happens to those characters in the final installment of the trilogy. And also be sure to watch the High Republic show over on YouTube and lend your support to Christina Ariel. She absolutely knocked it out of the park this week with the High Republic show. And there was a lot of really fun information that was revealed, some character designs, interviews with the authors, and it was just generally a really good and exciting time. So be sure to watch that. And then I believe the next episode is in March around the same time. So you have plenty of time to get your questions in. Maybe you'll be featured over there, but it was just so much fun. So go give that a watch, and I'll link that down in the description. So now it is time for us to talk about Light of the Jedi. Light of the Jedi, or as I like to call it, I Love the Nihil. Now, look, the Nihil are not good guys by any stretch, but they definitely have some very valid points that I was really excited about seeing in a Star Wars book. I have definitely made enemies in the past when I've voiced my frustrations with the Jedi. I have some long-standing issues with their practices and how their entire kind of organization structure is. And I've gotten into arguments about it with people. So it was just really exciting and refreshing to see characters speaking critically about the Jedi and kind of exposing their flaws. The Jedi and their Republic think that they're the ultimate good and that their ultimate prerogative is to go into the wilds of space out in the Outer Rim and to bring order and peace and light. And all of this is colonizer language. What have the Jedi ever really done to help people other than going throughout space and essentially kidnapping babies and young children who are force sensitive and taking them away from their families and telling them they can never go back home and they can never have these attachments? And that's always been a massive issue for me where the Jedi are concerned. I mean, look what happens when you take children away from their parents and then tell them they're not allowed to have attachments. And I mean, on one extent, the Light of the Jedi has done extremely well with showing that these Jedi definitely have attachments, but we do know ultimately how the Jedi shift and change and where they are at the present timeline. Simply put, the Jedi are essentially missionaries doing the bidding of an imperialistic government, aka the Republic, and they think they're helping, but they aren't. As a historian and an anthropologist, I find this fascinating because it's never been so clearly put into a Star Wars book before, to my knowledge, that this is kind of laid out and you're seeing kind of the way things operate and the way other characters react to these good intentions. And I mean, I will be fine if there's no follow through ultimately in the High Republic and if the Jedi are still the ultimate good and the the Nihil are these, ultimate villains. But I think it's important that these little elements are there, and it just absolutely fascinates me. There's actually a couple quotes in the book. If you can't tell, I put tabs up, but I did also write them down. So I'm just going to read a couple quotes that just were chef's kiss. So on page 366, this is the scene where Marchion Ro is talking to Loden Greatstorm. Oh, not you specifically, Loden Greatstorm. I mean the Republic, building its starlight beacon out in my territory, invading, taking over with all its rules and laws and particular brand of freedom that isn't free at all. And you Jedi, always just behind, absolutely convinced that every action you take is right and good. My family learned that to its cost long ago. And so I just think it's fascinating that there's clearly been these ramifications from the Jedi's good intentions, and that usually the Jedi do something and then they leave and they're removed from the fallout of their actions. And so I'm hoping that with Marchion Ro's character that we might see this come to a head, and that we might actually see more about where the Jedi have failed, and maybe those failures are part of what ends up causing their downfall in the future, because we do know the Jedi ultimately fall apart. And while, yes, the Nihil are bad, the Nihil are essentially what happens in response to fractions like the Jedi and the Republic. And we learn more about the Nihil's flaws a little bit earlier in the book when Kassav is talking about it on page 224, and I have that quote written down as well. On the surface, the Nihil were all about freedom, about breaking away from the galaxy's system of control. Forget the Republic, forget the Hutts, forget anything doing what you want it. Forget anything but doing what you want it when you want it. And then a little bit later into the sentence, but once you were a Nihil, you still had a boot on your chest, even if you didn't always feel it. So it's very clear that, Marchion Ro has this history with the Jedi, and that they may have been part of what killed his family, at least in part. And so I'm very excited to see, what happened to him and what built this character, and why he's so desperate to hold on to control over the Nihil, because I do think that that is a response to whatever has occurred before. And of course, we don't have the full picture yet. There's parts in the book where Marchion Ro is talking about the stories he's heard about the Jedi. So it's possible that he hasn't even had that direct interaction with them, but his point of view has been built on the, imprint of what the Jedi have left behind. And so I think that's fascinating, in seeing these systems of groups and how they've kind of formed out of response to different groups, and, with the Republic, with the Jedi, with the Nihil. And I just think it's fascinating. The whole "we are the Republic" thing that the Republic are running with in the book is a big red flag for me. It's a really nice, catchy mantra, but it's also, not good, because we know that the Republic ultimately is a corrupt organization, and we know that the Republic ultimately is filled with corruption, and it leads itself into destruction, essentially. And so, call me anti-establishment, but it's hard not to point out the corruption in these governmental bodies, essentially. We see centuries later what happens, and we can easily assume that it's still happening now. The whole mantra is just really jarring and fascinating to me. And I'm also very wary of the Jedi as a whole, and then also Chancellor Lina. So I think that whole like great works thing is really interesting and super sketchy. And I'm very excited to see what the books end up bringing to these characters, and what we learn about them and how they've interacted in the past. And the whole thing is really fantastic. And I think Charles Soule did a really great job with this book and with this introduction, because this is the starting point for the High Republic. And there's just so much amazing content and so much world building. And those are the key features that I'm really, really into. But, beyond that, and on a lighter note, I'm really into the like light romance that's going on between Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann. Those scenes on Naboo just, I love Jedi talking about having a retirement on Naboo and having these like fantasies. And then, at the end of the book, there's the whole scene with them in the epilogue and, hinting at they had some sort of connection as Padawan. And I'm really excited to learn more about that. I also loved Bel Zettifer, and I'm really excited to see what happens with his character, especially with what's going on with Loden Greatstorm. Also, just seeing a Jedi Wookiee and Buryaga is so fantastic. And if you watch the High Republic show, you will know we're going to see another Jedi Wookiee. And I just love it. I absolutely love seeing so many alien species in these books. I have opinions about the fact that the sequel trilogy focused so much on humanoid characters, and it's really exciting to see more of these alien species and their cultures and their experiences being represented in the books. And also, of course, we see more of them in The Mandalorian and new shows. And so it's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. But bottom line, I'm just super thankful to Star Wars for giving this book this extra context and this extra, making you think critically about the good guys. And, there's been 40 years of imagining these characters as like the ultimate good, but are they? It's just really fun to have characters that are just spitting facts and making you think critically about these characters that you love. That's one of the reasons why characters like Saw Gerrera and DJ from The Last Jedi are some of my favorite characters in the Star Wars universe, because they make you think. They make you stop and consider who is the good guy and are the good guys flawed. And that's such a fun and fascinating kind of look into Star Wars. I love characters that make you think. But hopefully you enjoyed this kind of ramble about colonization and these interactions with these groups. And Star Wars has always been really good at building worlds and building these cultures. And so it's really fun to see how these cultures interact with each other and see how groups have this influence over the experiences of other groups. So that's kind of my ramble this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will be back next week talking about some of the High Republic comics, hopefully. There's just been so much awesome Star Wars news recently. I may have put in a pre-order for the Ben Solo Funko Pop and the Rey Pop. I have a lot of Reylo Pops. So I decided I had to finish off the trilogy despite my frustrations with the Rise of Skywalker. So I have two Reys and Kylos from The Force Awakens. I have two Reys and Kylos from The Last Jedi, and now I will finish it off with Rise of Skywalker. So super excited about that. What did you buy this week? Did you pre-order anything? There were some really cool Black Series and 50th anniversary toys that came out this week. Let me know down in the comments if you picked up anything this week. Always love to hear from you all. And as always, thank you for watching this, and may the Force be with you.